All right, let's call to order the Sparks City Council meeting for Monday, February 24th with a roll call.
Mayor Lawson.
Here.
Council members Abbott.
Here.
Vanderwell. Here. Anderson.
Here.
Bybee.
Here.
Rodriguez.
Here.
City Attorney Duncan.
Here.
City Manager Louthan.
Here.
We have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you. Our invocation today is by Pastor Taylor Sexton of the Living Stones Church.
Good afternoon, Sparks. I see, as always, many civil servants, business owners, leaders in our community, and greetings to our council members and mayor. I'm a pastor at a local church here in Sparks called Living Stones, and it's just an honor to get to open up today's meeting. And before we get to all of the topics that we get to today, I get to give us a word. And as I was thinking about what to talk about, the book of Ecclesiastes was written by one of the greatest kings on earth named Solomon, richest man, powerful man, and he shared a lot of wisdom from things that he learned. And I wanted to read from us something that he shares. He says, "What gain has the worker from his toil?" It's a really great question. What gain is there in all this work that we're doing right now, all of the agenda items that are going to be brought, all of the decisions that our council members need to make, all of the work that you guys are doing at the places that you represent? Sometimes it just feels like we work, and where does it go? What are we working for? And here we are, and maybe you've had extreme budget concerns over the last month. Maybe it's people who you serve, and you're getting a lot of extra phone calls and emails. And you're like, man, what did I sign up for? And the joy of your work can immediately just disappear. I don't want us to be working from a place of fear, emptiness, regret, or obligation. So Solomon says, "What gain has the worker from his toil? I have seen the business that God has given to the children of man to be busy with. He has made everything beautiful in its time. Also, he has put eternity into man's heart, yet so that he cannot find out what God has done from the beginning to the end. Yet I perceived that there is nothing better for them than to be joyful and to do good as long as they live. Also, that everyone should eat and drink and take pleasure in his toil." Hear that? Have a good meal tonight, no matter what happens at your workplace today, no matter what happens this week. There are bigger things outside of that, like your family, like your friends, like your faith, like enjoying simple things that come from the good hand of God, like a good drink and a good meal. So no matter what happens in work, don't let it steal the joy of life. He says, "I perceived that whatever God does endures forever. Nothing can be added to it, nor anything taken from it." God is in complete control. We as humans, we just do our part. And we plead with God for wisdom, with God for strength, and with God for patience. But we can only do what we can do, and we have to, at the end of the day, leave our work in God's hands. Knowing that if we served him, if we worked for him, and if we served others, if we did good, he says, do good. Spend your life doing good. If we do these things, then they're not in vain. They're actually eternal. And we can go home and we can go to bed at night with peace, saying, you know what? I did what I did today, and I did good. I took joy, and I leave it in the hands of God. Let me pray for us. God, we need wisdom. Every single one of us. Lord, we need a new perspective. We can confess that we've lacked joy, and that much of the work that we do at times is out of obligation. God, you have given us work, and you call it a gift. And Lord, when we carry the burden of being in control of the outcomes, Lord, it sucks us of our joy. And God, we're not in control. And we just want to recognize that right now, that we're not in control. Help us to just be good stewards, and help us to be good servants, and help us to be wise people who love one another, who live for the biggest and the greatest things. And at the end of the day, we leave everything outside of our control in your hands, that we have peace. We sit down, we enjoy a good meal, enjoy a good drink, and give you thanks. And all God's people said, amen. Have a blessed day, Sparks.
Thank you. Mr. Abbott, the Green Menace.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, we're up to public comment. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment?
We do, Mr. Mayor. It's Mr. Markel.
Just Mr. Markel.
A Yucaipa man was in critical condition Friday at Loma Linda University Medical Center, where he was taken for treatment of head injuries after a car crash Thursday, authorities said. Mark Markel, 24, was thrown from a 1977 Datsun as it overturned on Live Oak Canyon Road at the eastbound Interstate 10 off-ramp at 4:30 p.m., said California Highway Patrol Officer Amber Drysdale. The driver was driving south on Live Oak Canyon Road when he lost control of the car, struck a curb, and skidded into the off-ramp. The vehicle rolled over several times and landed on top of Mark Markel, Drysdale said.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, City Manager, City Attorney, and Clerk, everyone. Hi. My name is Mark Markel, and I'm a concerned Nevada resident. She read what happened to me. I just don't want to see this happen to anybody else. Don't get in the car with the drunk driver. My life is messed up now because of this. I can't work. I can't walk, and I'm uncoordinated. I don't talk well. I don't see well. I don't hear well. I just don't want to see this happen to anybody else. So please don't get in the car with the drunk driver. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Anyone else in the public wishing to speak at this time? Okay, we'll bring it back to the dais. I'm looking for approval of the agenda. I'm in the right place here. Bear with us. Okay. Ms. Vanderwell.
I move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Guys, without a second.
Hold on. Not dying until I say it dies. It's just approval of the agenda. It's not that controversial. We're experiencing technical difficulties.
Oh. Just kidding.
Oh. Yeah.
Then we're good.
There we go. Mr. Abbott,
Second.
you got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Move on to the minutes. Look for approval of the minutes. Mr. Anderson.
Move to approve the minutes of the special concurrent meeting for February 6, 2025, the joint Sparks City Council Planning Commission Housing Conditions Workshop for February 10th, 2025, and the Sparks City Council meeting for February 10th, 2025.
Mr. Rodriguez. Second. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. All right, 7.1. Women in Construction Week. Wendy, I saw you were here. I'm assuming you're here for that. Well, come on down and we'll read the proclamation for you. Miss Bybee's going to read it. And then hang out for a second afterwards and we'll get some pictures.
Yeah, please. Okay.
Whereas women throughout Northern Nevada help ensure our economic growth and stability through their many contributions to the construction industry as general contractors, subcontractors, architects, engineers, project managers, and tradespeople. And whereas the Women in Construction Committee of the Nevada chapter of Associated General Contractors is dedicated to promoting the employment and advancement of women in the construction industry throughout our community, state, and nation. And whereas the Northern Nevada community of women in construction has been a driving force in fostering community development through renovation and beautification projects, promotion of skilled trade careers, and a positive vision of the future. And whereas the 2025 observance of Women in Construction Week celebrates the theme, Together We Rise, recognizing the strength, resilience, and collaboration of women in the construction industry as they continue to build more inclusive and innovative future. And whereas the City of Sparks acknowledges that the skill, expertise, and invaluable contributions of women in construction and supports their continued growth and success. Therefore, on behalf of Mayor Ed Lawson, Mayor of the City of Sparks, we hereby proclaim March 2nd through March 8th as Women in Construction Week.
Go ahead, Wendy, give us your name for the record, please.
Thank you so much, Mayor and Sparks City Council. For the record, my name is Wendy Colborn. I am the Chief of Staff for the Building and Construction Trades Council of Northern Nevada, and it is our honor to represent over 6,000 working men and women in the skilled trades in Northern Nevada. Now, while not that many of those 6,000 are ladies yet, we are always working to increase that number. These career paths are open to everyone, and the women who do select them are of tremendous strength, not just physical, but of character as well. And we're very honored to be joined by several of them today. And if you ladies would like to introduce yourself. Not a good public speaker. It's okay. You just have to say your name.
My name is Crystal Garcia Wasson. I'm a grade setter at Q&E Construction, and I'm also a fourth stage apprentice.
Awesome. One at a time. Yeah, come on up.
I'm Erin Picard. I'm a member of the Logo 350 Plumbers and Pipe Fitters Union. I'm a pipe trades apprentice.
My name is Avery Moliner. I'm also with local Union 350, pipe trades, pipe fitter, plumber, welder, do it all. We're an amazing union and organization to be a part of. So.
These are just a few of the very exceptional women in our trades programs here in Northern Nevada. We couldn't be prouder of them, and we're very grateful to you for recognizing Women in Construction Week. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. It's an honor for us to do this. Any comments from the council before we take a picture? Diane?
I want to say thank you. I worked for NACA for 9.5 years, so I am so encouraged to see so many young women coming into the trade. So welcome, and it is something that you guys will never be able to change, and please bring more women in. So thank you for stepping up.
Okay. Anything else? Darlene?
Thank you for being here today, and I kind of echo what Councilwoman Vanderwall said. And I think what's exciting is that the opportunities and the glass ceilings that you're breaking in a career that was traditionally not so many women, that you're expanding that. But I really think as I learn more about the trades and about unions, but especially trades, the opportunities of really good jobs and good paying jobs that you can support your families. And that opportunity without, the debt, if you decided to go to college and you're saddled with a lot of debt and maybe not a job, I think opportunities for young people, both men and women, the trades are a great way for people to go and really ensure some financial stability for you and for your families. So I think it's exciting. Thank you for all the work you do.
Anyone else? Okay. If you guys wouldn't mind, stand over here. We'll take your picture and put it on our YouTube where millions of people watch City Council. So you'll forever be in history. Thank you, ladies. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to 7.2 International Women's Day. Somebody here for that?
Yes, the whole front row.
Come on up. Well, give me at least two of you come up. All right, and Diane, you have that one?
Whereas International Women's Day is celebrated globally on March 8th by those who believe in gender equality and who seek to improve the lives of all women through cultural, legal, economic, and social change. And whereas International Women's Day celebrates the collective power of women, pay tribute to their achievements, and recognizes the remaining challenges to further efforts for women's rights and gender equality, encouraging and mobilizing all people to contribute to positive change. And whereas the City of Sparks honors the accomplished and visionary women who have helped build our country, including those whose contributions have not been adequately recognized and celebrated. And whereas the City of Sparks pays tribute to the trailblazers from the recent and distant past for daring to envision a future for which no past precedent existed, and for building a nation of endless possibilities for all its women. And whereas there are women serving in leadership positions federally, statewide, and locally, inspiring the continued work in advancing the rights, opportunities, full participation in all aspects of society of women and girls of all backgrounds. And whereas on International Women's Day, we spotlight this year's theme, Accelerate Action. At the current rate of progress, it will take until 2158, which is roughly 5 generations from now, to reach full gender equality, and efforts to speed up this timeline by addressing systemic barriers and biases that hinder women's advancement are overdue. Now, therefore, Ed Lawson, Mayor of the City of Sparks, does hereby proclaim March 8th, 2025 as International Women's Day in appreciation of the many achievements of the women of the City of Sparks and those across this nation and world.
Give us your name for the record, and please, we turn on the green light. There we go. They turned it on for you. Thank you.
Thank you, whoever did that. Isla Friedenthal, President and CEO at Nevada Women's Fund. Mayor Lawson, elected council members, thank you so much for having us here today. Thank you for the proclamation. Nevada Women's Fund has been in existence since 1982, so for 42 years, and our mission has always been empowering women to achievement, and we've been doing that here in Northern Nevada. This year marks our 42nd year, and we've awarded over $10 million to women living and educating right here in Northern Nevada and in our rural communities, because we understand the value of retaining our local talent. We also believe in the importance of professional development and career advancement for women. And in doing that, we thought it was important to recognize International Women's Day, something that hasn't happened in Northern Nevada on a large scale. So we took on this inaugural event. And I want to say thank you to Diane Vanderwell and Nancy O'Connor, who immediately said the City of Sparks wants to get involved. We will give you the marina. Let's have a walk, and we'll support you in any way possible. So thank you to both of you for that. This has turned into what is going to be a historic day. We're turning the city purple. Did you wear purple for us today? So, buildings, casinos, marquees across the city will be turning purple for International Women's Day. There will be events happening throughout the day. Over 100 local businesses, governmental agencies, and organizations have gotten involved in this inaugural event. And if that doesn't speak to the power of this community and the importance of this initiative, I don't know what does. So on behalf of myself, Nevada Women's Fund, our board of directors, and the women that we serve in Northern Nevada, thank you. Would you like to say something?
I'll just introduce myself. I'm Craig Westner. I'm a member of the board of directors for the Nevada Women's Fund. I've been associated with the organization for the last 4 years, and I found it very rewarding. One of the things that's important to me is I do have a wife. I have 2 daughters, and I have 2 granddaughters. Obviously, I want to see them be able to succeed in our society.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the council? Mr. Abbott?
Yeah. I know you guys just did a video on the at the marina. Can you just let everyone know what day the walk is? If
Oh,
you said already,
absolutely.
I might have missed it. Sorry.
Well, everything is happening on March 8th, so International Women's Day globally happens March 8th. This year, it happens to fall on a Saturday, which worked very well in our favor. So all of the events will be happening that day
And what time's the walk?
from 8 to 10 a.m. So be there at 8 a.m. sharp. We have a lot of other local nonprofits and organizations that are going to be supporting the event. Girls on the Run, Girl Scouts of Northern Nevada. It's going to be a fun collective effort.
Thank you.
Yes.
I would just like to say, when we go to take the picture, that we would like to ask all the women of the city of Sparks to please come up to take a picture for International Women's Day.
Okay, anyone else?
And if we're feeling really crazy, the theme this year is Rosie the Riveter, who does a little flag, so we could always do a little flags.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's get a picture. They're gonna block us up. We don't have to leave.
There's gonna be. I'm gonna get a photo. Is it?
So, I thought you were gonna get your picture taken. You got the hair.
One of my buddies. He's like, you look. He's like, you look.
Didn't come do it. They missed public comment, sorry.
We're running a meeting here, so. All right, let's move on, Dion. 7.3, boards and commissions vacancy announcement.
Thank you, Mayor. There are 2 vacancies on the Sparks Building Code Board of Appeals, each for 2-year terms. The vacancies are for registered architects or builder superintendent of building construction. Each must have at least 10 years of experience, 5 years being responsible charge of work. Applications will be accepted until Thursday, March 13th, 2025 at 5 p.m. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to consent items. Anyone wishing to pull a consent item? Ms. Bybee?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would like to pull item 8.2 and 8.3 and move them to general business for discussion.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion for the last consent item, 8.1. Okay. You want to make a motion? Anybody?
I got you.
Go ahead.
I move to approve item 8.1. Do I need to read it, or are we good?
Nope. Consent item.
Cool.
I'll second.
I've got a motion by Councilman Abbott, a second by Councilwoman Vanderwell. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Let's move on to 8.2. Consideration possible approval for an addendum to the professional services agreement AC 6013 with SB Strategic Consulting, Inc. for outreach work benefiting the city of Sparks' interest in the Truckee Meadows Public Land Management Act for January 1, 2025 through December 31st, 2025 for $80,000. Allison.
Thank you, Mayor Lawson. City Council, for the record, I'm Allison McCormick, your Assistant City Manager. Before you today, item 8.2 and 8.3 are very similar. Both are professional services contracts for government affairs, consulting, and advocacy services in connection with the Truckee Meadows Public Lands Management Act. Each contract is for a period of 1 year, January 1 of 25 through December 31st of 2025. Item 8.2 is a contract between the city and SB Strategic Consulting, and item 8.3 is a contract between the city and Barrett Resources. Again, these are annual contracts with a total annual price of $80,000 payable in monthly installments, I should say. Staff is recommending approval, and I am happy to answer any questions.
Ms. Bybee, you pulled the items.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What I would like to do or propose to the rest of the council, the work that both of our consultants have done in this last couple of years, I guess that we've already had them 2 years, we're trying to get the Truckee Meadow Lands Bill through, and we are on the final leg. And so I want to see that moved across the finish line. So the work that they've done both here, mostly with gathering our stakeholders, making sure, reaching out, the lobbying that they've done and the gathering of our stakeholders and keeping us apprised on process and the progress of the bill is really important. And I don't want to lose that. We're close. We're so close that I don't want to just throw out what we've done and hope that it goes through. And I think their involvement and their expertise is super valuable to making sure we get that across the line. So what I would like to, but on the other hand, with our fiscal situation right now that we're staring at a very big budget deficit, we are looking at possible reduction in staff as a fiscal conservative and being responsible to the city and to our employees. It's hard for me to look at a 1-year contract and the cost of that, the 80,000 times 2. For me, I'm not ready to say that I can go for a year. So what I would like to offer as a proposal to help us get this across the finish line is a month-by-month contract we don't know if it's going to all go through in a month or 2 months or 3 months, but a month-by-month contract when the bill goes through, looking at the other services that were spelled out in the agreement on our agenda, on land sales, on helping us manage, after the bill passes, we come back to. And we don't consider that at this time. We're just looking at getting it through right now. And then when it passes, we'll have other needs at that time, and we'll see what our fiscal situation is then and who we want to do that, if we want our 2 consultants to do that, or if that's open for an RFP. But for right now, just to get us across the line, I'd like to propose a month-to-month budget pending passage and adoption of the Truckee Meadow Lands Bill. So that's My thoughts, I don't know how my colleagues,
You're discussing 8.2 and 8.3.
both 8.2 and 8.3, correct. Sorry.
Any questions from the council? Any further discussion on this? Paul?
I guess my concern, and is a question to Councilmember Vanderwell, what you're talking about doing is,
Vanderwell or Bybee?
I'm sorry, Bybee, sorry.
Looking at
He's
Bybee
looking
instead of
at-
Vanderwell.
I'm looking, yeah, sorry. My concern is that is the intent that we're gonna, all annual contracts now, that we're gonna start bringing them to a month-to-month approval process? Or I just, in my opinion, I think this is very inefficient. We're talking about scaling back on staff. In my opinion, I think it's going to be more time consuming, more labor intensive. I'm not seeing the value. We approved road maintenance contracts for an annual basis. I don't see that it's a wise decision for us to be pulling back everything and looking at it every month on our expenditures. I would like to think that we can make a good decision, and not to mention, if you're a construction company, if you're a consultant or whatever your position is, and you're only going month to month, quite honestly, if it were me, I probably would be looking for other opportunities where I don't have to wonder each month whether I still have a paycheck coming in. So that's my concern.
Ms. Vanderwell?
Thank you. I just want some clarification. So Councilwoman Bybee, so this would be just going forward on the lands bill and not the toll road or the disposal of land. Okay.
Mr. Duncan?
So just in kind of listening to everybody, I think if we're going to go the route of Councilwoman Bybee, I think, a lot of our professional service contract have like a 30-day termination notice. So if that should be something, should the council want to go forward with that, I think we should make that consistent with our other type of professional services contracts that we do. And then I would suggest that if the council wants to go that way, to direct the city manager to change the addendum of that contract on the conditions of whatever the council decides that they want to do. So however we work that motion, but that would be my suggestions from a legal perspective, if we choose to go Councilwoman Bybee's direction.
Can I answer?
Yeah,
Answer?
please.
So Wes, are you saying that if we renew the contract right now, we have a 30-day clause that we could cancel in a lot of our other contracts already, that we could cancel with a 30-day notice? So if the lands bill passes in a month or 3 months, we would give notice of cancellation, and that would fall in line with what we're doing on other contracts? Is that what?
Well, what we're trying to do is being, fiscally sensitive to some of the challenges that the city is facing, is that we are trying to get in 30-day notices in some cases, if you can negotiate that, or if a contract is up, just if the city needs to move quickly on something. And so I think what you could do, Councilwoman Bybee, or this council could do, is do the month to month, but just put in the notice of the 30 days. So there is that sort of notice that Councilman Anderson talked about. It does make it consistent with some of the things that we've been trying to do with the fiscal challenges that we're having. So that would be my, and the other part is, if you choose to go that route, direct the city manager's office to negotiate that with the conditions that you set forth. And if those conditions aren't met, then the contract doesn't go forward.
Okay. And I guess my question to Councilman Anderson's concerns, and this would be to you, Allison, is there additional work if we have a contract? They're under contract right now, and we owe them money because we haven't renewed yet. So if we renewed today, is there additional work or time or effort for staff if we're going month to month? Does it produce more paperwork? Is it just an understanding that, I guess answer that first, and then I'll relay kind of what my overall concerns were on a year.
Sure. Thank you for that question, Councilwoman Bybee. To go month to month on these two contracts as an isolated issue, I don't think creates a substantial amount of additional work on staff. We would need to negotiate exactly what that language is, but that I imagine would be a relatively easy negotiation, provided that both consultants are amenable to going month to month. If the council were of a mind to go month to month on more professional services contracts, that absolutely would create an additional burden on staff.
And I guess my concern, Councilman Anderson, is really on making a one-year commitment today for $160,000. It doesn't sound like much, but we're cutting nickels right now because we want to save jobs. So $160,000 for me of a whole year, mostly because it has the toll road and it has the disposal as part of those services. And I would rather, if we get there, consider those separately. So really looking at just getting us across the finish line with the current bill that has been resubmitted and Congressman Hamadeh is working on to get us through that was my point of trying to save us some money here, but also not undo what work has been done. And then when we get it through, and if we need those other services, we come back to it. But that's really where I was going, is I have a hard time supporting a one-year contract today. Bottom line.
Okay, Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To my colleagues, I see where everyone's coming from. And I know as, kind of the freshman here, I had like a little bit of a snapshot. I kind of a brief on what our lobbyists or what our firm's doing. And I think that this would be a good opportunity to maybe bring them in, especially with everything that's going on with, it's no secret with the financial restraints that we're facing for the public. Like what are they getting for their buck? What is this firm doing? I think it'd be great to bring them to an open meeting and have them show the public and us what they're doing with this money and the work that's been done. And I will say, I think it would be a little difficult. I mean, I know if I was offered a job where, you get paid maybe next month, maybe you don't. So maybe something maybe in the middle where we can look at quarterly. Hey, this quarter, what's been done? What services are we as a council and as a city getting? Maybe bring that just food for thought. I think that's something that maybe this firm could be more open to biting on, because I think month to month might be a little rough, honestly, to retain them. And especially we seem pretty committed with this firm at this point. I do think in the interest of transparency, I think it would be great to see about having them come and present to our city the work that's been done and what they're planning on doing.
Mr. Abbott.
I have a question on the agreement, going back in the 24 agreement on the termination side. I have number 12. So like right now we have it set already for a 30-day written notice, I think, right?
I'm not.
So I'll help you. I'll give you an
Sorry,
assist
not
on
to-
this. So the paragraph says that in the event that the lands bill passes, you can give a 30-day notice, but it doesn't. The existing contract doesn't have the parties can terminate at 30 days at any time right now. So that's the distinction. So that's why I'm saying if we choose to go the route that Councilwoman Bybee was talking about, and then we're talking about a month-to-month thing, we need to be able to have a notice mechanism in that. So we direct the city manager to have those conditions in place. Month-to-month, doesn't exceed a calendar year total, and maybe a monthly total for what you would want to do.
Thank you.
Hearing some of the concerns from some of my other council members, I'd be amenable to 3 months, so quarterly, to make it maybe less work for all of you and a little more certainty for our lobbyists, that they would know that which would be a quarter, so a 3-month time frame, at which time we'll see where the lands bill is, and we'd be able to come back to it and see if we renew another quarter at that time. So, Mr. Duncan, you're shaking your head.
Yeah, no, I mean, legally speaking, I mean, it's up to this, it's a policy decision, right, by this council. I think month to month serves the purpose, but, it's really up to this body about what sort of level of certainty and what you want to do. Can you do that legally? Of course you can. But yeah, I think it's a 12-year contract, so you're getting a couple bites at the apple. If you put in a 30-day notice mechanism, I think that probably covers your concerns, but up to you.
Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, I guess what I want to do is just share my concern, again, going back whether it's monthly, quarterly. I believe that we'd be setting a precedent that could take us in a dangerous direction because we're talking about one contract now. But again, I'm thinking of it from a business standpoint. Our business is potentially not going to want to do business work with Sparks because they're going, oh gosh, they're only doing year to year, month to month contracts now, or every 3 months are reviewing your contract. Why not focus on places where we know we're going to have a set period of time, year or multi-year, whatever it is? And if we're looking at just this one contract, then consistency. How consistent are we? Are we going to pick and choose all the time on each and every contract when we're going to go month to month or quarterly or whatever? I don't know. I don't like the direction of making a change to this personally. I like the idea of them coming and speaking to us in public. I think they do a good job of connecting with us. I know I talk to them on a regular basis and get updates of where they are, but having them come so that the public then gets to hear as well about the work, the progress that's being done on all their work. So I guess that's my last point. Thank you.
Did you want to speak, Ms. Vanderwell? No. Okay. I mean, I think the city attorney put it best. It's a contract that if the lands bill passes, we give them our 30 days notice and they're done. Pretty simple.
That's already in.
Well, it would be something that and what I'm hearing from Wes is that the city manager would put those in based on our conversation you had here today, that would go into the contract. And if the lands bill passes in a month, then we give them 30 days notice and it's done.
So yes, Mr. Ray, I mean, if the council said we want to do a 30-day notice, that's absolutely true. In the old contract, which this is an addendum to that 2024 contract, it already has the provision in there that says you can give 30-day notice should the lands bill pass. But I think that's different, though, than what Councilwoman Bybee was saying in terms of we don't have a 30-day notice that we can cancel at any time provision in there now if we want to go to a month-to-month or a quarterly review or whatever it is.
I mean, to me, it either passes or it doesn't pass. It's pretty black and white. There's no real gray area in my mind. So if what you're saying is we need a 30-day cancellation notice based upon the bill passing, that could be added in there.
No, sir. What I'm saying is it's already in paragraph 12 of the 2024 agreement. That's already in place. But council, what I'm saying is that if you want to move to a quarterly or a month-to-month contractual scheme, we would want to put in there to protect the legal, to protect the city.
I guess the question I would have would be, because again, it's the fiscal side of it. So if we just went with the existing language that said when the lands bill passes, we have the right to a 30-day cancellation. Today, are we allocating half from this fiscal year, half from the upcoming fiscal year, $160,000? It's the money piece of it for me that we'd be committing those funds split by the 2 fiscal years that it crosses into. And I guess my second question would be, with all the contracts, we've got a lot of contracts, to Councilman Anderson's point. We've got a lot of contracts in the city. Aren't they all subject to whatever negotiation we have with whatever company? I mean, they're not all the same. And would this set a precedent necessarily for any other contract, or would it be up to what we negotiate for further contracts?
Thank you. I will answer that second question first. Each contract is its own contract. There have to be at least 2 parties and they have to reach terms. Often our city attorney's office wants language in, for example, software contracts that Microsoft isn't really willing to budge on. but each contract is different than the next. I think these two contracts are somewhat unique as far as professional services agreements at the city go, because there is a very concrete goal. The goal is the passage of the Truckee Meadows Public Lands Management Act. Oftentimes, our professional services agreement are, for example, our agreement for more generalized advocacy at the federal level with the Porter Group. That doesn't have an end goal, right? We want them to advocate on our behalf in a wide variety of areas. Whereas these two contracts really do have passage of the lands bill as the primary end goal. So I do think it's a little bit different than some of the other situations we find ourselves in. As to your budget financial question, $90,000 for the old contracts, because they have agreed to reduce their pricing for us from $90,000 a year to $80,000. So that was included in the current budget for fiscal year 25, and we also have the full $80,000 amount built into the draft fiscal year 2026 budget that is underway, and Mr. Crunk's team is hard at work on. So we've got those numbers built into our draft budget for the upcoming fiscal year, as well as in the budget for the current fiscal year. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the council? Ms. Bobby, you pulled the items. Do you want to have a 5-minute recess to see if you can speak with the clerk to craft a motion?
We do that in the manager
Okay.
to see what.
Let's take a 5-minute recess.
Yeah, so yeah.
Back to order. And I understand we have a motion, Madam Clerk. Ms. Bybee,
And before I move,
will you make the motion?
I will
first?
make the
Thank
motion,
you.
sorry. Before I make the motion, I do want to say that I want to recognize our two lobbyists that have been our partners who've been working on this, and the work that they've done and the progress we've made is extraordinary. And our consideration today is a tough one. It's like all the really tough decisions we're having to make right now in the city. There's a lot of them that are not going to be much fun, you know, and we're really trying to do the best we can with the financial situation we're in. So there's no reflection on the work you've done or what still has to be done. It is purely a fiscal side of where we are in the city right now and our responsibility to our residents. So thank you. Your work has been extraordinary. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion. I move to approve the addendum to the professional services agreement AC 6013 with SB Strategic Consulting, Inc. for outreach work benefiting the city of Sparks' interest in the Truckee Meadows Public Land Management Act, and direct the city manager to revise the addendum on the condition that the service agreement be a month-to-month contract for $6,666.67 per month, contain a 30-day written termination notice for the city, and not exceed $80,000 for the current calendar year.
Okay. Looking for a second, Mr. Abbott? Is that? No. I don't have a second. Ms. Vanderwell?
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion, Mr. Abbott?
Question on this. Would the check go out? Are we talking first of the month, end of the month? Is that already spelled out somewhere else? Does it have to be in here?
No, that's not for us to.
I question because it's February 24th. Are we writing a check for $12,000 if this passes to back pay?
Upon approval, we would be owing them for January and February services, yes.
Okay. And then a new one, obviously, in just a couple next week for March.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I just want to reiterate, just talking out loud to who's ever listening. I still do believe that it would be a great opportunity to see about having this firm present a presentation for the council and for the public. Just, again, maintaining that transparency that here's where your money's going, here's what's going on, here's what's been done, and show the work that's been, I know staff and the firm's been doing quite a bit on. So just talking out loud. Thanks.
We'll coordinate that with the consultants. Thank you.
Okay, so I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? No? You have a discussion? Sorry, I see your name.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I just want to reiterate, I don't think it's wise that we start picking apart every single contract. And to be consistent, we really would need to be doing this to every contract if we're going to be consistent in what we're doing. And I realize it is the situation that we're in financially. I understand that. I agree, and I appreciate that. I don't think this is the approach that is smart business on how we're moving forward. I will vote in favor of this because we definitely need to make sure we move this forward. But I just want to make it clear that I don't believe this is wise, that every single time we have a contract come before us, that we're now going to be saying, adding in that you're a month-to-month contract. I think it's poor business.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, I've got a motion and a second. No further discussion. Please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. 8.3. Ms. Bybee.
I move to approve the addendum to the professional services agreement 5701 with Barrett Resources for outreach work benefiting the city of Sparks' interests in the Truckee Meadows Public Land Management Act, and direct the city manager to revise the addendum on the condition that the service agreement be a month-to-month contract for $6,666.67 per month contain a 30-day written termination notice for the city and not exceed $80,000 for the current calendar year.
Mr. Rodriguez. Second. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Mr. Abbott.
I just want to thank Chris and Scott for working for the last couple of months with no paycheck. I do appreciate it. I think it's all just a priority of all of ours to move this forward. I just want to publicly say thank you both for doing that work. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Move on to 9.1. Consideration, discussion, of possible approval of the funding allocation up to $64,500 for FY25 and up to $131,500 for FY26 as recommended by the Tourism and Marketing Committee 2025 special events.
Good afternoon, Mayor Lawson, council members. I'm Emily Pate, Parks and Recreation Administrative Manager. Today, we are recommending that council approve funding up to $196,000 to event producers that applied for Tormark grants. All told, $332,000 was requested, with $196,000 available. As the request exceeded the available monies, Tormark Committee, after input from staff regarding attendance figures and out-of-state attendees, recommended each producer receive a percentage of their request. For this year's funding cycle, Hot August Nights requested funding for a new event titled Hot August Nights Pre-Event. After the Tormark funding meeting, staff met with HAN and determined that their proposed location for the pre-event did not meet the criteria for funding, as it was going to be held on private property. Within the last several days, HAN has secured public space for their pre-event, and the pre-event should be considered eligible for funding. This location change happened after the agenda was posted, and staff is recommending to council to consider the HAN pre-event funding as proposed by the Tormark Committee. Occasionally, producers who apply for and receive funding amounts from Tormark are unable to produce their event or have to cancel their event due to unforeseen circumstances. In those instances, the city manager has authority up to $25,000 that he may delegate to staff to reappropriate those specific funds to other events that were considered and recommended for funding, or for the unused monies to remain in the Tormark funding account to be distributed the following year. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions for you.
Questions from the council? No? Mr. Abbott.
I will just chime in. It's not a secret that I had a great relationship, it's pure sarcasm, with Water Lantern Festival. They were the Reno Water Lantern Festival that was held at the Sparks Marina. I definitely had some issues reaching out to them, asked them to make many changes to advertisements. I had to get our legal team involved, our lawyer, your previous assistant. Either way, he's not here anymore. He's a great guy. He helped. But it was very frustrating. And if I personally, I would get rid of, I'd give them $0 personally. I really could. I'm not a fan of what they did, how they treated myself, and how much of a headache they gave us. We spent way too much staff time. So just throwing that out there. It's not a secret at all. The guy barely emailed me back, and it's very frustrating. So just putting that on the record. Everything else I'll live with.
Okay. Anyone else? Go ahead.
Maybe it's a fun question. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a new guy here, just curious, why don't we do any fireworks or festivals like around New Year's?
These are the events that applied for Tormark funding. We currently don't have a New Year's Eve fireworks celebration that applies for Tormark funding. So every event that applied received a portion of what they asked for.
Sure. Thank you.
This was a hard year for us, Ms. Vanderwell. You want to talk about that?
If you guys can please share how many applications we got and how we came down to this, because yes, it was very, very difficult this year, and a lot of the events only got a portion of what they requested, just because we had so many applications, and we are going to continue. And if you can also highlight a little bit on the placer data and the importance of what we did with that and everything else, if please, thank you.
So we had 14 events that applied. All the events listed on the screen are applicants. But in total, they asked for, well, all these events, including the City of Sparks, asked for placer data. So 15 applications for a total of $332,000. The committee worked really hard to cut that down to $196,000. That's the amount of money we receive each year from the RSCVA. The committee reviewed placer data for each event to get an understanding of how many attendees came to the event, where they came from, were they local or out of state. The committee did their best to cover city service costs for the events that didn't receive their full funding amount, in order to get us to $196,000. Hope that answered your
Mr.
question.
Anderson?
I have a question. I'm not sure if it's for our city manager or for our attorney, but along the lines of the comment that was made about one of these vendors that's less than desirable to work with as far as the cooperation with the city, do we have the authority or the opportunity to make changes to these funding points here?
And the city attorney can correct me if I'm wrong, but yes, I believe you absolutely do. The final authority rests with this body.
Would it have to go back to the events? So, okay. Mr. Abbott.
So what if one of those events, because I know we cut down on people's dollars, chooses not to happen this year? And I know you mentioned it would go back in the fund. Let's just say, I don't know, whatever, we'll pick one. There's $10,000 gone. Hot August Nights. Let's just say they choose not to do the pre-event. And there's another event on there that happens after Hot August Nights. Can they reapply? Can the board reconvene?
So that was mentioned. The city manager has the authority of up to $25,000 to delegate staff to reappropriate those funds to other events that were already considered and recommended as part of that process, or the money can remain in the Tormark Fund, and then we would have a little bit more next year.
And this is just to clarify, and I think I know the answer. Say they want to trade, I don't know, it's one of their friends. Say Waterland Festival doesn't want to do their event, and they want to give their $7,000 to Hot August Nights. They can't make that trade. It has to. We have the approval. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Ms. Vanderbilt, did you have something else?
I think what we really need to stress is for Tormark and everything else, this is tourism. So we want people coming to visit to the city of Sparks. We want heads and beds at the casinos and things like that. While we love supporting the local and everything else. And there are a couple of things that, I would appreciate if they could look at maybe partnering up and things like that to possibly help their event next year and things like that, especially since we have such a limited amount of funds to help anybody. So I am thankful that we have placer data, so we're able to analyze so that we can go back to these events and say, look, this just isn't working right now. Maybe can you partner up with somebody or maybe take a year off? So I do appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Spivey.
So this might be for our city attorney. On the Water and Lantern Festival, obviously that's concerning to me. I didn't realize that they're billing it as the Reno. Of course, we have that problem with the rib cook-off that you'll see on, and sometimes it's out of the control of us and the Nugget that are doing all the media on it, that Reno gets put on that instead. But on the Water and Lantern Festival, if they're put in Reno and don't seem willing to cooperate, can we put a condition on them that they get the $7,000 on the condition that it's Sparks Watering Festival? And can we make that a condition? Is that something that is allowable, or do we pull some of the money and they get the message that they need to be better to work with? I don't know if we can go down that, but maybe help me out, Wes.
Would it be in the application, Mr. Attorney?
Well, I think at the front end, having that potentially, but we don't know what people are going to be applying for. I mean, you could simply, if this body doesn't want to go forward with the funding for the Water Lantern Festival, you can approve $64,500 for fiscal '25 and $131,500 minus $7,000 with direction that you don't want to go forward with the funding for the Water Lantern Festival, and that can be the motion. The condition on I'd have to think about that for a second, about sort of a condition. I mean, you are approving the funding, so the funding is being approved by you. I think this body could say, you get the funding, but you got to call it the Sparks Water, or the Reno Sparks, or the Sparks or Reno, or I don't want to get this guy upset. He's going to get real upset. But
don't say the four-letter word.
So yeah, I mean, I think this body, you could make and condition the approval of the funds on something, just with the knowing that it doesn't, then the money may go back.
Ms. Vanderwell.
Can you guys explain, especially on the Water Lantern Festival, how that works? Because it was my understanding that if they do not follow, that they do not receive the funds.
Right. So Raquel Montserrat, Special Event Supervisor for the record. I'm preparing contracts for this year's funding right now. It is in the contract that they must bill their event as taking place in Sparks. And that was in fact part of last year's contract. So they were in breach of contract when we realized that it was happening. Yes.
Mr. Abbott.
Raquel, so you said they were in breach of contract last year?
Mhm.
Like we had that already?
And we asked them to correct it.
And Sally, just for everyone, like they did not. I know you guys know that. I'm just saying that to everyone. It was many emails. I know Nancy and Nick Dana was the name I couldn't think of earlier. It was frustrating. Like personally, I'll make the motion right now to give them $0 if you guys don't mind. It was silly that we had to get involved. Their website, it says their website URL is Reno-Sparks. I get we're Reno Sparks, but we are here trying to get beds and heads in Sparks. We're trying to get beds. We're trying to get people here in Sparks. Heads and beds. Tomato, potato. I went to Sparks High. Okay. Okay. But I don't know. I get we're all one region, but we are here to support Sparks. And I don't know. It was just extremely frustrating. Every ad I saw, I probably saw 10 different Facebooks, Instagram ads, all with Reno. So I'll send a message if you guys. I'll make that motion.
So do you want to put up a motion so we can? Yes, Mr. Abbott, will you go help them craft what you want?
How's that?
Unless anyone has any other discussion on this. And we go
Making it difficult today.
go get some tomatoes. God bless.
Half of what they asked for.
Did you get a motion that you desired, sir?
Find out soon.
Okay. So you want to make a motion, Mr. Abbott? Why don't you make a motion first?
Did it real quick?
No, the same one.
I think there's a reason.
Just press move.
Pause. I think.
Yeah, that's not those numbers don't mean anything. 64,500 and 131.
It's out of two fiscal budgets.
If leaving it at up to, then they do less.
You have to do it in 2 separate years?
Yes, we pay.
That was actually the actual agenda item.
Well, the bottom line, there's only 195,000 each calendar year.
But it's paid this.
Correct. Okay. Okay. Can you make a motion yet?
Yes. I don't have the button, but
Don't have the move
they're
button?
working on it over there. It's all good.
Move button.
It's the gremlins.
Yes.
Okay.
All
We
right.
got a motion by Mr. Abbott.
I move to approve the funding allocation of up to $64,500 for FY25 and up to $124,500 for FY26 as recommended by the Tourism and Marketing Committee for 2025 special events with the removal of the funding for the Water Lantern Festival.
Ms. Vanderwell.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously.
Very much.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to 9.2. Consideration, discussion, and possible approval of a construction contract AC 6095 with Powerhouse Construction Inc. and the amount of $628,996 for the Victorian Square Infrastructure Improvement Project, Station 5, bid number 24/25-010 PWP WA 2025-137. I'm getting good at those. After 6 years, you'd think.
Good afternoon, Mayor, council members. My name is Brandon Baxter, Capital Projects Coordinator. This project is located on the north side of Victorian Avenue, running from Victorian Plaza Circle, heading east to the plaza. The existing infrastructure was originally constructed in 1990 and has begun to show substantial deterioration. This project is a continuation of infrastructure improvements that were originally identified in 2016 along Victorian Avenue and have been completed in separate sections over the last several years. This project includes removal and replacement of portions of concrete, landscaping, irrigation, the installation of 9 new trees and tree planters, as well as installing 10 new bollards and making some electrical improvement. 8 bids were received, with the lowest responsive bid being Powerhouse Construction. Staff is recommending council approve a construction contract with Powerhouse Construction in the amount of $628,996. That concludes my presentation. If you guys have any questions, I'll answer those
Question
now.
from the council. Okay, I'm looking for a motion. Thorough presentation.
Thank you, sir.
This first one ever, so it's pretty
Yeah.
darn good.
Yeah, you're 1 for 1.
Yeah,
Mr. Abbott.
one in a row.
I move to approve a construction contract AC-6095 with Powerhouse Construction, Inc. in the amount of $628,996 for the Victorian Square Infrastructure Improvement Project, Section 5, bid number 24/25-010, PWP WA-2025-137.
Mr. Anderson.
I'll second the motion.
We've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. 9.3, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of interlocal agreement AC 6096 with Nevada Department of Transportation, or NDOT, for the engineering and construction activities related to the Pyramid Way Preservation and Americans with Disability Act project. Amber.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council, city engineer Amber Sosa. As introduced, this is an interlocal agreement between the City of Sparks and the Nevada Department of Transportation, otherwise called NDOT. NDOT is currently in the design phase for the Pyramid Way Preservation and Americans with Disability Act project. This is a project located on Pyramid Way, with roughly limits of Nugget Avenue to the south and proceeding north to York Way. The project will include pavement preservation, ADA accessibility upgrades, intelligent transportation system, pedestrian safety, and other improvements. Construction of this project is estimated to begin sometime in 2025 and is expected to take approximately 2 construction seasons. This interlocal agreement will allow the city and NDOT to partner together for engineering and construction activities related to this project. The city will provide comments to the project design team, will provide access to city right-of-way, work with NDOT to address any encroachment concerns, issue any necessary city permits, observe and participate in project construction as it's related to any city right-of-way, and participate in the final construction walk. NDOT will manage, design, construct, and administer the entire project. Also with this agreement, both the city and NDOT will work collaboratively to clean up the right-of-way issues by either relinquishing or accepting ownership via quitclaim deed as identified in the project documents. Basically, we're cleaning up the right-of-way so NDOT owns and maintains Pyramid Highway, where the city owns and maintains the city streets that intersect Pyramid through this vicinity. A future agreement between the city and NDOT regarding maintenance of traffic signal devices, such as pedestrian flashers and street lighting, is being developed and will come before this council at a later time. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions from the council? Do we have to condemn any property along there?
Not that I know of. NDOT is still in the right-of-way acquisition part of this. If so, that would be NDOT's purview and as them administering the project.
Are they making the sidewalks wider then also, or are they just redoing them?
There are certain areas where they are looking to increase the width to meet ADA, to meet PROAG. There's also wording that if it's restrictive, if it's going to absolutely wipe out somebody's property, that there's ways. So they're looking at that on a spot-by-spot basis.
Okay. All right, any questions from the council? If not, I'm looking for a motion. Mr. Abbott.
Yes, sir. I move to approve interlocal agreement AC-6096 with the Nevada Department of Transportation, NDOT, for engineering and construction activities related to the Pyramid Way Preservation and Americans with Disabilities Act ADA project.
Mr. Rodriguez. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. 9.4, construction, discussion, and possible adoption of resolution R3456, approving the transfer by the City of Sparks to RJM Ventures LLC of a parcel 1,479 square feet in size as part of a land swap within the Marina Village Plan Development. Amber.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council, still Amber Sosa, city engineer. This item for consideration would approve the transfer by the City of Sparks to a developer of a parcel of 1,479 square foot as part of a land swap within the Marina Village Plan Development. RJM Ventures is pursuing development of a multifamily development on a vacant parcel within the Marina Village Handbook. That is currently called Marina Square. For this development, the existing Marina path would need to be relocated to meet the intent of the approved development handbook. direct you to the screen to talk about the parcels that I'd like to talk about. If you can see my cursor, this is currently Harbor Cove Drive. You would have Lincoln up here to the north. The water bar is approximately where the cursor is circling right now. And the 3 parcels that are included within this land swap you're hearing are located here in green, red, and green. An existing canal circulation pump is currently outside of city-owned right-of-way. And this area is right here to the green. With this land swap, the developer is proposing to give this portion to the city of Sparks so we can continue to maintain and operate that pump for the Marina Canal. With the proposed path that we talked about that would need to be relocated to meet the handbook, the path would come along here along the waterfront and tie into the path that's currently to the north and south. And this area of green would be dedicated to the city of Sparks so we could continue to offer that to pedestrians and users of the marina. For that exchange, the developer would like this small piece of property located here in red. It is currently a part of the Marina Canal that you see just south. It is currently underwater, and they would like to be given that piece of property to use within the development that you see just north. Per Nevada Revised Statute 268.061E, the city is authorized to sell any real property owned by the city where the property is a remnant that was separated due to the construction of a public facility, or if the parcel is too small to be viable. It is the opinion of myself and Community Services staff that the property to be transferred to RJM Ventures through this land swap is too small to be economically viable for use by anybody other than RJM Ventures. Additionally, an appraisal report was conducted, and the trade value with Sparks getting the 2 green pieces and Sparks giving the red piece has a plus market value of $64,060 plus for the city of Sparks. With that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the council? Okay, you got to explain it to me. The property's underwater. What do you do?
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't let that pass. I asked Paula if it's a swim-up bar area or what?
It's the swim-up bar. No, they would be looking at constructing a wall and actually filling in that part of the water to make it more feasible with their development.
They'd bring it above water.
They will bring it above water would be the hope.
I asked the stupid question that you guys were afraid to.
Well, most of us were thinking, right?
All right, I'm looking for a motion if there's no questions. Mr. Anderson.
I move to adopt Resolution R 3456, approving the transfer by the City of Sparks to RJM Ventures LLC of a parcel 1,479 square feet in size as a part of a land swap within the Marina Village planned development.
Mr. Rodriguez. Second. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Thanks, Amber. Thanks for explaining the underwater part. 9.5, consideration, discussion, and possible direction to the city manager on priorities of the draft City of Sparks fiscal year 25 through 29 Community Development Block Grant Consolidation Plan. Amy.
Good afternoon, Mayor Lawson, members of council. My name is Amy Jones, housing specialist. I am before you today requesting direction on the priorities to be incorporated into the draft Community Development Block Grant fiscal years 2025 to 2029 5-year consolidated plan. So what is the consolidated plan? The City of Sparks is an entitlement community and receives an annual award of Community Development Block Grant or CDBG funds each year. The city is required to submit a consolidated plan every 5 years in order to receive the CDBG funds. The consolidated plan is a 5-year document that is designed to help local communities assess affordable housing needs, community development needs, and market conditions. The consolidated plan sets the priorities for the use of the CDBG funds for the upcoming 5 years. And the city's current 2020 to 2024 consolidated plan will expire on June 30th of this year. The city is required to engage the public in the consolidated plan process to solicit input on the community's greatest needs. This process began on October 8th of 2024 with the launch of the community survey. The survey was available on the city's website in both English and Spanish through December 7th. As well, it was promoted on the city's social media platforms. Staff hosted a public workshop in October and also provided presentations to city boards and commissions in October and November. Upon direction from council today, staff will schedule a public meeting to solicit public feedback on the proposed goals, priorities. Staff will finalize the draft consolidated plan and make the plan available to the public for 30 days in April, as well as hold a second public meeting. And then finally, in May, a public hearing will be held before the Sparks City Council at the conclusion of that 30-day public comment period. And upon acceptance of the fiscal year 25 to 2029 consolidated plan by this council, staff will submit the plan to HUD. This slide illustrates the highest ranked priorities identified in the community survey. The community received 136 responses, and the survey was separated into the following categories: affordable housing, both permanent and emergency housing, public and facility infrastructure improvements, public services, community enhancement, and economic development. And while all categories were ranked relatively high, notably infrastructure and improvements to sidewalks, curbs, gutters, and ADA modifications and elimination of blight ranked the highest, followed by accessible housing, rental assistance, public service specific to mental health, public service specific to domestic violence, facility improvements specific to parks, code enforcement, zoning, ordinance compliance, job training, homeowner repair and rehabilitation, transitional housing, workforce development, and emergency shelter. Entitlement communities set the priorities, develop the activities, and allocate the CDBG funds based on the CDBG program guidelines to address our local needs. And those priorities and activities must meet the primary and national objectives set by HUD. Priorities must support one of the following.
$10 fine.
They must meet one of the following primary objectives: provide decent housing, provide a suitable living environment, or expand economic opportunities, and must also meet a national objective of benefiting low to moderate income persons, aid in the prevention or elimination of blight, or address a urgent need. The priorities are carried out through annual activities through the annual action plan, utilizing the CDBG annual award that the city receives, and that each activity must be tied to a priority that is in the consolidated plan. HUD regulations do set a 15% cap on the amount of funds that can be allocated to public services annually, as well as a 20% cap on the amount of funds toward administrative costs. Additionally, HUD regulations also requires that CDBG grantees comply with a timeliness test to ensure the efficient and timely use of the CDBG funds. And so what that means is the city cannot have more than 1.5 times our annual award on hand when HUD assesses our how much money we have at that time. Grantees that do not comply with that may receive reduced funding in the future. So staff did take these factors into consideration when identifying the CDBG priorities and the activities to ensure the funds can be spent timely. So with that, based on community input, staff evaluation of HUD provided data, and the HUD regulations, staff are proposing the following priorities for council's consideration today: community infrastructure and facility improvements, community revitalization, community assistance, and affordable housing. Additionally, funds will be allocated to program administration to carry out the identified priorities through each annual action plan, which those funds support the housing specialist position and partial finance staff. The priorities are broad to allow for flexibility when creating the activities in the CDBG annual action plan to address the needs of the community. With that concludes my presentation, and I am happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the council, Ms. Spivey?
So, Amy, on your second to last slide, can you explain the difference between community revitalization and, because I'm looking at infrastructure facility, those first three are all very related. What is the difference, or what specifically would fall under community revitalization?
So thank you, Councilwoman Bybee. I can run through each one of those. So looking at community infrastructure and facility improvements, activities under that category would look like our installation to the improvements of curbs, gutters, sidewalks, accessibility modifications, and things like that, as well as if we're looking at public facilities, we'd be looking at improvements to parks or any other public facilities that the city would look to utilize those CDBG funds. When we're looking at community revitalization, specific activities under that category would look more like streetscaping, installation of trees, or should we move forward and look at ways that we can ensure compliance with our code enforcement regulations for our low to moderate income residents. And then with community assistance, that's our public service activity. So that's that category where we're looking more at serving low to moderate income households. That's where we're going to work with our nonprofits. So food insecurity, homelessness, homeless youth, rental assistance, fair housing, that would be that category where we work with those nonprofits. And then finally, under the affordable housing category, I know you didn't ask, but I'll just run through those as well. So that would be preserving and developing affordable housing. That could be through land acquisition, support, site work support, and that can also be looking at our deferred loan and emergency repair.
I have a quick follow-up. Thank you. I appreciate that kind of spelling out the differences in all of the different categories. Are we concerned at all, or if we made adjustments on what this 5-year plan, especially this year with the new administration and federal funding under scrutiny, where we feel pretty safe about what our request for grants and funding is? Have we made any shifts on that, or are we yet to be seen?
So with the CDBG program, that is based on, our allocation is based on our population. So as an entitlement community, when Congress makes that award, it's then given to HUD, specifically what goes to the CDBG program, and then it's dispersed out to all the communities based on that population calculation. So that's why our amount will fluctuate from year to year. With this current administration, I can't answer what our funding looks like going forward. We are required to do a consolidated plan in order to continue to receive those funds. So we wanted to make sure we had this work done when we find out what those appropriations are. You're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions from the council? Not. I am looking for a motion. Ms. Vanderwell.
I move to direct the city manager to incorporate the proposed priorities as presented by staff into the draft City of Sparks FY25 through 2029 CDBG consolidated plan and solicit public feedback on the proposed priorities.
Mr. Anderson.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Thanks, Amy. 9.6, first reading, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the first reading of Bill Number 2830 to amend Sparks Municipal Code, Section 20.02.013, to allow the manufactured home dealers use in an expanded number of zoning districts. A public hearing will be held and Bill 2830 will be acted upon at the regular meeting of the Sparks City Council on Monday, March 10th, 2025 at 2 p.m. at the Sparks City Council Legislative Building. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We have no public hearing items. None for zoning. Comments from the public. Do you have any public comment, Madam Clerk?
We do not.
Okay. Anyone in the public wishing to speak? There's no public here, so. Announcements from the mayor, city council, city manager. Mr. Manager, do you have anything?
Nothing today, Mayor. Thank you.
City council, do you have anything? Mr. Abbott?
Absolutely. So obviously my hair is a little green right now. I dyed it for St. Baldrick's. We have a City of Sparks team. So I see some staff members out there. You just want to join the team. We're cutting hair next week. We're competing against Reno. West Sparks over there.
Is Dion included?
Yeah. Dion's our number one donor so far. He's donating $1 for each follicle of hair he shaves. But we are beating Reno right now by like $800 earlier. And I think Councilman Anderson has something else to say in regards to St. Baldrick's.
All right.
Did you get
I'm
shamed into
putting
something?
the pressure on everyone else. I'm going to go ahead and step up and join Councilman Abbott and other city members. So all of you with some locks out there, please join in. We'd love to have you.
Where do we donate? I didn't know where to donate.
Yeah, so I did send, I was blessed, City Manager Louthan allowed me to do an email to everybody, so it should be in your inbox. There's a way to donate to my individual one, but you could just donate to the city one. The city one is, I think, what I would recommend, just to show your city support. But any dollar counts, and we have, right now, with Councilman Anderson joining, we have 3 people. We are going against Councilman Reese and Councilman Martinez currently over in Reno. And we are, like I said, we are winning, and hopefully we'll continue to win. And we're cutting hair Friday is the big event. And then I believe we're cutting hair a little bit early just for a media day. So,
Carey, Mr. Carey, you need to get involved. Not a stretch for you. Okay, any other announcements from the council? This is my day to abuse Scott. All right, with that, we are adjourned.
Redevelopment. Don't go anywhere.
Don't run away.
Don't run away.
Yes, thank you. The city attorney and I were having yeah. Do you have a gavel? Well, it was actually I was ready to start it. What's the word? Let's roll. We'll call to order the Sparks Redevelopment Agency meeting with a roll call.
Chairperson Abbott.
Here.
Agency members Lawson.
Here.
Bybee.
Here.
Vanderwell.
Here.
Anderson.
Here.
Rodriguez.
Here.
Chief Legal Officer Duncan.
Here.
Chief Administrative Officer Louthan.
Here.
We have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will go to item 3.1, public comment. Do you have any public comment? I don't see any public comment. We got item 4.1, looking for approval of the agenda. Agency member Rodriguez. Agency member Vanderwell.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Passes unanimously. Item 5.1, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the minutes of the Sparks Redevelopment Agency meeting for January 27th, 2025. Looking for a motion. Agency member Anderson.
Move to approve the minutes of the Sparks Redevelopment Agency meeting for January 27, 2025.
Thank you. Agency member Bybee.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Perfect. 6.1, consideration possible acceptance of the report of the passes unanimously. Yes, sir. My apologies, agency member Lawson. Consideration and possible acceptance of the report of the claims and bills approved for payment and appropriation transfers for the period of January 14, 2025 through February 10th, 2025. Agency member Vanderwell.
I move to accept the report of claims and bills and the appropriation transfers for the period of January 14th, 2025 through February 10th, 2025.
Thank you. Agency member Rodriguez. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Passes unanimously. Item 8.1, comments from the public. Any public comment? Scanned. I don't believe I see anyone. 8.2, announcements from the agency and chief administrative officer. Roger that. Roger that. We will move on to the next one. We will adjourn.